Physics relies on roughly 24 highly specific numbers that dictate how reality operates. These are the constants of the Standard Model, the leading mathematical framework describing 3 of the 4 known fundamental forces in the universe. We're talking about values like the mass of an electron, or the fine structure constant, which measures the strength of the electromagnetic interaction between elementary charged particles. While we can measure these numbers with staggering precision, their origin remains a mystery. In our current equations, they function as arbitrary inputs. We plug them in manually to make the universe work, even though the theories themselves cannot explain why they possess these specific values. The history of physics is a story of unification, finding the hidden links between seemingly separate forces. In the 19th century, James Clerk Maxwell unified electricity and magnetism into a single elegant set of equations. Following that lineage, Albert Einstein successfully linked space and time into a single geometric fabric. But that momentum eventually slowed. For the last 50 years, the quest to explain the deepest layers of physical reality has largely stalled at a brick wall. Our fundamental understanding of physical reality remains incomplete as long as these magic numbers remain unexplained and independent from one another. We have mastered the measurements of the machine, yet we lack the blueprints. A series of papers titled Marithmetics details a deterministic mathematical pipeline that derives the exact physical constants of the universe from scratch. This derivation requires 0 free parameters, it avoids curve fitting, and instead generates its results from 3 pure integers, 137, 107, and 103. This approach requires us to completely unlearn the modern physical view of the foundation of reality. Standard physics begins with the assumption of an infinite continuum. It treats space and time as a smooth, endless stretch of real numbers, and then tries to slice itself into smaller, increasingly discrete microscopic pieces to find the bottom. The Marithmetics inversion treats the continuous universe as the final destination of the calculation. The true foundation is a finite substrate. This mathematical environment represents numbers as strict relational structures instead of simple magnitudes of size. By dropping all the way down to discrete modular arithmetic, we observe the universe computing itself using the rigid laws of finite algebra. This is the NT0-00 chart, a visualization of a digital root power table. A DRTT tracks how remainders cycle and repeat when numbers are raised to increasing powers within a fixed modulus, serving as the underlying engine of the finite structure. In a finite system, the math has no room to hide. Every calculation is forced by arithmetic to either loop perfectly or collapse completely. The units in these dark bands generate clean, predictable periodic cycles. They form structured rows that mirror each other endlessly. The non-units in the white bands inevitably fall into attractors, which are permanent mathematical dead ends. This finite dynamical system provides the literal DNA of numbers, dictating strict geometric boundaries for what is allowed to exist. This creates a challenge. How does a rigid grid of integers scale up to become the smooth universe we actually observe? The framework that manages this upward transfer is called deterministic operator calculus, or DOC. This is a set of rigorous mathematical rules that transfers discrete arithmetic into continuous geometry without ever losing structural integrity. As this finite math stretches and scales toward infinity using admissible operators, the underlying constraints act as a scaffolding. These constraints strictly limit the final shape of the continuous universe. The fundamental physical constants emerge as the unique, unavoidable fixed points required to cross that bridge from the finite to the continuous. Deriving the physics of the universe from integer tables bears a superficial resemblance to numerology. The authors of the theory address this skepticism directly. They established the PH0 audit standard, which logs every calculation in a cryptographic authority of record. This is a sealed cryptographic archive specifically designed for a hostile referee to verify every single step of the claim. The first audit test is base as gauge invariance. This requires that physical truths remain identical whether calculated in binary, hexadecimal, or base 10. When the math converts across these systems, the underlying geometric structure stays the same. Passing this strict test proves that the structural integrity of the math exists independent of human representational choices. The system also employs a mechanism called counterfactual teeth. This is a strict requirement that the system must violently fail if incorrect starting integers are plugged into the pipeline. If the pipeline is fed an incorrect set of integers, such as 409, the math shudders and degrades. It fractures into chaotic noise rather than accidentally fitting the data. This designed failure ensures the constants of nature are the only stable answers the arithmetic allows. The constants of nature are the rigid, unyielding consequences of pure arithmetic. Here, infinity is the shadow cast by the finite.